Good evening, yogis. My name is Daniel from Daniel Lee Yoga. Thank you for joining me for class this evening. It's Monday evening. It is May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Thank you all for joining me to start your week. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend and have a great start to your week today. As far as class for today, we have a 60-minute Vinyasa Flow class that's fundamental focused. This week we're working on inversions, which that can be a scary word to some people, even me, inverting yourself. But little did you know, you've probably done a lot more inversions than you actually realize actually are. So as far as today being fundamental focused, we're going to take some time just breaking down poses to isolate their component parts and actions, and that will allow us to just become more familiar with our bodies and our breath, and will allow us to more confidently approach poses that are more advanced inversions. And as far as requirements for inversions, really, you definitely need some upper body strength, depending, thoracic mobility in your spine. And really, what we're going to be focusing on in today's class is around the shoulder area. We really want to have a lot of space in the shoulder area, and it's really easy to dump into your shoulders in inversions where you start to cramp up just because it can be a little easier at first just to do that. But to really create a safe alignment and really give you the maximum benefit in the inversion, we're really going to focus on that area today. There's a lot of benefits to inversions. They can either be calming or sometimes even just invigorating, depending on the pose and the person. You also develop more upper body strength while doing them, and they can just give you a really unique perspective, looking at the world upside down. Oh, hi, Connie. So that's what we're going to be working on today. And again, this is more fundamental focus. So if you are a beginner, you'll be right at home today. And if you're more advanced, you'll definitely get something out of this class by breaking down the poses and understanding where you need to focus on in order to deepen your practice. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. We're going to get started on our backs, lying down with our legs straight out in front of us. If there is anyone on the stream that can just let me know that everything looks and sounds good, I'm double checking on my phone and everything looks good to me, but it always helps to just have an additional person checking and just commenting. So if you are able to comment, that helps me. If not, don't worry about it. Just meet me on your back. Okay, so on your back. Oh, thank you for checking in. All right. Looks like we're good, Connie. Okay, on your back, let's extend both legs straight out and start with your hands down by your sides, palms face up. With your legs straight, just let your knees and your feet gently fall out to the side. Just want this to be a nice, restorative, easy pose here to start. Just take an inhale and exhale. Now you can place one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart. Doesn't matter which one, whatever comes most naturally to you. And just begin to take some nice deep inhales and exhales here. Just inhaling and exhaling on your breath. And the invitation here is if you'd like to softly close your gaze or maybe your eyes closed completely as you begin to just focus on your breath. And gently feel how your belly and chest moves up and down as you inhale and exhale. Keep just gently breathing here. This week, as you can see, we're at a waterfall this week. It's a place I found in the middle of the jungle. It's got some nice sights and sounds, so maybe you're enjoying those right now. So take a couple more deep breaths. Now let's release both arms back down to the sides, palms face up. We're going to stay on our backs with our legs straight, but we're going to make this a more active pose now. So begin by extending out through your heels and flexing your feet so that the toes now face up towards the ceiling. So your legs are still straight, but now your toes and your knees face up towards the ceiling, and the muscles in your legs start to engage. It doesn't have to be too active, but enough to where those muscles start to engage. Keep the arms down to the side, palms face up towards the ceiling. See if you can roll your shoulders up and back and down towards the mat to create a little space in your collarbone. Slightly tuck the chin and gaze is still up towards the ceiling. Just see how this feels. Again, you're starting to engage the muscles in your body here. We're still on our backs. Just take an inhale and exhale. Now gently release that and come back to where we started, keeping your arms down to your sides and just gently let your knees and your feet fall out to the side. Now we're back to where we started, but we're not actively engaging anything here. Just want you to notice how you feel here as opposed to the more active engaged pose. Just take an inhale and exhale. Let's come back. Let's flex those feet again. So the toes face up towards the ceiling, knees face up, arms are still down to your sides, palms face up. Again, making this a little more active, bringing some awareness into those legs. Maybe start to roll your outside edges of your thumbs down towards the mat. Palms still face up, gently rolling the shoulder blades up and down. Hugging your navel in and down towards the mat. Maybe you can draw your tailbone to your heels slightly. See how that feels on your pelvis. Just take an inhale here. And exhale, gently release that again. Release any tension in your body. Let the knees and the feet fall out to the sides. Just stay for one more breath here as you notice the differences in your body. And exhale. Okay, now we're going to bend our knees, staying on your back. Plant your feet on the mat. I want your feet about hips width distance with your heels directly underneath your knees. So with your arms down to your sides, palms face down, maybe your fingertips just graze the backs of your feet. That's usually a good indicator to know your heels are directly underneath your knees. And your knees are separated, so those are hips width distance as well. Place the palms down into the mat. Take an inhale and exhale. We're coming up into a bridge pose, but we're going to make it dynamic. So we're coming up and coming right back down on our breaths. So begin to press your palms into the mat, press the feet into the mat, and on your next inhale, lift your pelvis up, lift your chest up into your bridge pose just for a breath here, and gently roll down from the top of your spine. Low back is the last to arrive on your exhale. On your inhale, we're coming back up, press down, lift your pelvis up, chest up, draw your chin away from the chest, keep pressing down. And exhale, gently roll down from the top of your spine, low back last to arrive. Let's do two more of those. Pressing your feet into the mat. Inhale, lift your pelvis up, chest up. Spin those inner thighs in and down. Keep the knees, hips width distance. And exhale as you gently release from the top of the spine, low back last to arrive. One more time here. Press down, inhale as you lift your pelvis up. Lift your chest up off the ground. Chin away from chest. And exhale, gently roll down from the top of your spine. Low back is the last to arrive. Take an inhale here and exhale. Keeping your feet in this position, we're now going to move the arms. So on your inhale, lift the arms up overhead, palms face away, and let them fall back behind, palms face up. Don't worry if they don't touch the mat. We're going to exhale them as we bring our arms forward and back down to the mat, either sides of the hips. So inhale the arms up and overhead. And on your exhale, arms come back up and back down to your sides. Two more here. So inhaling, lifting the arms up overhead, palms face up. And exhale, releasing those arms back down to your sides. One more time. Inhale, arms up overhead. palms up to the ceiling. And exhale, arms come forward and down to the sides. Take one more breath here. And exhale. Okay, now we're going to combine those two actions that we just did. So we're going to lift our pelvis up as we lift our hands up at the same time. So begin by rooting the feet down into the mat. Root your shoulders down. And on your next inhale, lift your pelvis up, chest up, arms up. Keep lifting the legs up, arms come overhead. And then on your exhale, you're going to gently roll from the top of your spine as your arms come back up and back down to your sides. These are our dynamic bridge poses. So on our inhale, lifting our pelvis up, chest up, arms come back overhead. And exhale, gently rounding from the top of the spine, low back. Release everything back down. Let's do two more of those. Inhale as we lift up everything. Arms come up overhead, chin away from chest. And exhale, gently release from the top of the spine, low back, last to arrive. One more here. Inhale as we lift up, pelvis, chest, arms overhead, palms up. And exhale, release from the top of the spine, low back, last to arrive, palms face down. Just take an inhale to catch your breath here. And exhale. One more inhale. And exhale. Now gently hug your knees into your chest. Just give a gentle squeeze here. And just let the knees fall off to one side and press yourself up. We're coming up to a cross-legged seated position. So just meet me with your legs gently crossed, with your feet underneath your knees. Looks like everything looks good with the stream, which is always good. Okay, so in a nice cross-legged seated position here, in case you have trouble just sitting up like this, keeping your back straight, you can always sit up on some blocks if you have props, if you have them. You can roll up your mat for a little bit of elevation, or if you have a towel or just anything to lift up, you can place that underneath your sit bones. So make sure you're nice and comfortable. Place both palms on your knees. Take an inhale here. And exhale. Now on your next inhale, extend the arms overhead. Palms face each other. And just exhale, gently release them back down to your knees. So inhale the arms up overhead, palms touch. And exhale, release back down to your knees. Two more times. Inhale, arms up overhead, palms touch. Exhale, release down to your knees. One more time. Inhale, arms up overhead, palms touch. And exhale down to the knees. Now release your hands down to the sides at this time. Open them out so that the palms face up. And now let's inhale as we lift them overhead, palms touch. This time stay up. On your exhale, you're going to turn to your right and release both arms down. Maybe both arms come outside that right thigh. Inhaling back up to center, both palms touch. And on your exhale, turn to your left this time. Release both arms to perhaps outside that left thigh. Inhaling back to center, both palms touch. Exhale, twisting to your right, releasing both arms down. Inhaling back to center, both palms touch. And exhale down to your sides. Inhale back to center, both palms touch. And exhale, hands down to the center of your chest and down to the sides. Okay, again, so with our inversions this week, we're going to focus a lot on just creating a lot of space in these shoulders and really drawing the shoulder blades together and down the back. What that really helps is to reduce any cramping or crunching in the neck in our inversions. That applies to pretty much all inversions, that even the most simplest ones that we're going to do today. So in order to do that, it really helps to understand the shoulder rotation and the direction that you ideally want to think about when you're in these poses. So to help reinforce that, we're going to, again, revisit our internal and external rotation of our shoulder sockets. So let's begin by extending both arms out, palms face down. This is kind of our neutral starting position. So our shoulder socket here, with your arms still extended out, we're now going to externally rotate our arms. So to externally rotate your arms, your thumbs come up, your palms face up, and then your thumbs rotate back. So you're rotating the whole arm at the shoulder socket here. Gently releasing that back down to neutral with the palm face down. Let's do internal rotation now. Thumbs come down, palms face back, internally rotating. Maybe the palms start to face up. Gently releasing that back down to neutral. One more time each way. So let's externally rotate the arms. Thumbs come up, palms face up, shoulders open. And gently release back to neutral. And now the internal rotation. Thumbs come down, palms face back. And gently releasing back down to neutral. And just release your arms back down to the sides. So we'll try a little bit of an experiment here, and I just want you to be gentle with your shoulders here. It's an experiment. So let's extend our arms out to the sides, palms face down. Let's internally rotate our arms to start. So palms face back with the thumbs down. Maybe your palms start to face up. So you stay here. And now gently, gently try to raise your arms overhead while maintaining this internal rotation. So you're raising your arms up, trying to raise them overhead. This is about as far as I get. You might get a little farther, you might get a little less. But if you're maintaining that internal rotation, chances are your arms aren't going to get that high. So just gently release back out to the sides and release those arms back down to neutral position. So that was our internal rotation. So let's try external now. So thumbs come up, palms face up in our external rotation. Now try to raise your arms up overhead. I bet you can get a lot closer, maybe even touch your palms directly overhead. Let's just gently release those arms back down to the side, back to neutral position, and just release your arms down to the side. Place your palms on top of your knees. So that just illustrates the different mobility you have in the internal versus external rotation of that shoulder socket. So in our inversions, we're really going to be focusing on externally rotating those shoulders. That's a lot of what we're going to work on today. So just a little thing to keep note of. Now, I want you to switch the class of your legs. So whichever shin is in front, remember that. Switch it up so that you have the opposite one in front. Just try and balance it out here. So we're adding a little side lean here. So let's inhale the arms out overhead, externally rotate, because we have to, and bring the palms up overhead. Now, keeping the left arm up, release your right arm down and extend that left arm up overhead. Now we're adding a little side lean here. You can be on your palm, you can be on your fingertips. Just try and create some nice length in that left side of the body. Take one more inhale here. And exhale as you come back to center. Right arm comes up to meet the left. Let's move to the other side. Drop the left arm down this time. Extend the right arm up. Add a little side lean here. You can be on your left fingertips or your left palms. You create some. Release that that right arm down. Extend that left arm up. Again, see if you can even externally rotate even more. And while you're in this side lean here, try to draw your shoulders down your back. See if that creates a little more length in that shoulder area. Broaden those collarbones. Stay for one more breath. And exhale, bring that right arm up to meet the left. Drop the left arm down. Extend the right arm up overhead, creating that side lean again. And again, see if you can maybe externally rotate that right arm slightly more. Draw that right shoulder down the back. See if you can create a little more space here, opening up these shoulders. One more breath here. And exhale, bring that left arm up to meet the right. And release both hands down to the center of your chest and down to the side. We're now going to add a little neck stretch here because, again, it's important to just create some flexibility and mobility and awareness in that neck area, again, in our inversions. So start by extending the left arm out to the side. This time we're going to internally rotate so the left thumb faces down, and then drop those left fingertips to the ground. So try and have your left thumb touch the ground with that left palm facing back. Now root down through your sit bones, rise up through the crown of the head to create a nice long spine. Keep your shoulders where they are, and then just gently let your head lean off to the left. So you're gently leaning that neck to the to the right, so away from that arm. So you're gently letting the head fall off to the right. And you can stay here, or if you want a little bit of a deeper stretch, you can use your right arm to gently, just very gently, just add a little bit of weight. You can come to the top of the head Just add just a little bit more weight here. Just trying to keep a nice neutral spine, keeping your shoulders square here. Just take one more breath. And exhale, gently release that right arm from the head. Bring both arms down and head back to center. Now let's extend that right arm out, internally rotate so the right palm faces back. Release that right thumb and fingers to the ground. Keep having that right palm facing back. And then gently let your left ear fall to that left shoulder. Again, you can stay here if you want to use your left arm on the top of the left head. You can just gently add a little bit of weight. Only go to your capacity here. You might feel a couple cracks and pops. I know I typically do on this stretch. Just take one more inhale here. And exhale. Gently release that arm. Release your head back to center. Place both palms in the center of your chest. Take an inhale. And exhale. All right, we're now coming into tabletop. So you can place your hands in front of you and roll over your knees, or you can send your feet out on the side. Either way, in tabletop, we have our hands directly below our shoulders and our knees directly below our hips. I think looks good. Have the tops of the feet to your ground, and those are also hips width distance. So you're looking for nice 90-degree angles here. You're gently pressing the base of each finger and each palm into the mat, and gently drawing the shoulder blades down your back. Broaden through those collarbones, send your heart forward, but keep a nice neutral spine. You can gently hug your navel in and up. Take an inhale here, and exhale. Let's add some cow-cats, waking up the spine here. So let's inhale as we drop our navel, send our heart forward, look up into cow. Reverse that, exhale as you round your back, separate the shoulder blades, head hangs heavy, cat pose. Coming back, inhale as you arch your spine, heart forward, look up, cow. Reversing that, exhale as you round your back, shoulders separate, head hangs heavy. 2 more times on your breath, go through your cow-cats. Just take your time, just be very mindful as you go through. And after you finish that second cat, you can just meet me back in a neutral spine here. Now, we're in our tabletop, we're in our neutral spine. We're going to gently come down onto our forearms. So just take a peek at where your wrists are, and that's exactly where your elbows are now going to be. So you're going to drop your right elbow where your right wrist is, and drop your left elbow where your left wrist is. I want you to begin by start by pressing the palms into the mat, so the forearms and the palms are pressing down just gently, but they're both shoulder width distance. So again, make sure those elbows are directly underneath your shoulders, and your palms or forearms are pressing into the mat. Just take an inhale here, and exhale. Your neck is still engaged slightly. You can slightly tuck the chin to elongate the cervical spine. Take one more inhale, and exhale. Now this time your palms are facing down on the mat. What I want you to do here now is to open up your arms so that the palms now face up. So now you're opening up those arms, you're pressing the backs of the hands into the mats now. So your palms are facing up, backs of the hands into the mat. Try to draw those thumbs out and down towards the mat. Mine don't quite touch, but just the active engagement of doing that is going to start to broaden those shoulders a little bit more. This kind of helps to reinforce that external rotation in that shoulder socket. Just take one more breath here, pressing the backs of the hands and the forearms into the mat. And exhale. Now release that. This time we're going to clasp our fingers together as we bring our hands together. When you clasp your fingers together, just gently have both pinkies come down onto the mat and both thumbs cross each other. Try to keep a nice straight line between your fingers and your wrists, so you don't want your wrist to be too bent or straight. You want to have a nice straight line from your fingers to your elbow here. Now from here, we are going to release our head down. So we're going to gently release our head so it can hang heavy. But I don't want you to dump into your shoulders here. So you're still actively engaging the shoulders. So you're pressing down through the forearms, lifting up through the armpits, drawing the backs of the shoulder blades together. So see if you can do that while letting your head hang here. So it's easy to dump into this. So if you press down, lift up through the armpits, lift the navel in and up, the core starts to engage here. Just take an inhale and exhale. Keep letting that head hang heavy. Take one more inhale and exhale. Now we're going to add the legs to this. So we're going to curl the right toes under, extend the right leg back, straighten that right leg. Gently release that right knee to the mat with the toes untucked. Switching to the left side, curling the left toes, extending and straightening that left leg. Press the left heel back and gently release that left leg. We're going to go back from side to side. So we're moving back to the right, extending, stretching, pressing back through that right heel. Gently releasing the right knee back down to the ground and stretching back through that left heel. Release that left heel back down to the mat. Stay here for a breath. And exhale. This time we're going to, the foot's going to come off the mat and the leg's going to come to hip height. If that's a little bit too much for you, just keep your foot on the mat. So here we go. We're going to extend and straighten that right leg. Bring it up to hip height if you can. If not, keep the foot on the mat. But if your foot is in the air, flex the foot so that the right toes are facing down towards the mat and you're pressing back through that right heel. Just stay for one more breath. And gently release that right leg back down to the mat to meet the left. Let's switch to the other side. So now we're extending the left leg back in the air, flexing the left toes so they face down towards the mat, pressing back through that left heel. Just stay for a breath here. And exhale, gently release that knee if it's up. Now keep those toes uncurled, release the clasps of your fingers, and gently send your hips back towards your heels. We're coming into child's pose here. So in child's pose, our hips are back towards our heels. Our arms are out in front of us, our palms face down. You can release your forehead to the mat. Don't worry if your hips don't quite touch your heels. If you do need to sit up on something like a block or a pillow, you can always place that in between your feet. And if your forehead doesn't quite touch the mat, just release your forehead to a block or again, a pillow. Just take a couple breaths here in your Balasana or child's pose here. Now again, I said you'd probably have done a lot of inversions that you don't know of, and child's pose is actually an inversion. So an inversion, at least in the yoga world, is defined as when your head is below your heart. And so even in child's pose, here you'll notice that your head is below your heart. And this can be a very calming inversion here. But it's a good thing just to reinforce that it's a time to check in with your breath. And as we move on through practice, we'll make this a more engaging pose where we'll activate the shoulders a little bit more. But for now, just make it a nice calming inversion. Just take a couple more deep breaths here in your child's pose. And exhale. One more inhale. And exhale. Now, raise your hips back up. We're coming back up to tabletop for one more exercise here in our tabletop. So, hands are directly beneath the shoulders, knees and tops of the feet are to the mat. Gently hugging the navel in and up. So, in our tabletop, we're going to rotate our arms now. So, in a neutral position in our tabletop, our fingers are facing forward, our wrist creases are lined up with the short edge of the mat, and we're gently pressing the palms into the mat. So we're going to switch that up by rotating the right arm so the right fingertips come back, then rotate the left arm so the left fingertips come back. Your fingertips may not turn all the way back. If they don't, just turn them to your capacity here. Now gently release that right hand back down to where we started, and the left hand as well. Now we're going to reverse that. So now we're going to internally rotate the arms so that the right fingertips face in. Maybe they start to face back. And same with those left fingertips. So notice in this internal rotation, do you start to feel a little bit of cramping in your shoulders? This is a little bit more of an awkward position. So again, this is internal rotation, which doesn't allow as much space as an external rotation. So release that. Right fingertips face forward, back into our tabletop. Let's do external rotation one more time. So our externally rotating so that those fingers come around and face back just to your capacity on your right hand and then on your left hand as well. Now stay here, gently add a little bend in your elbows, and we're just going to rock the hips forward and back. So try to keep the base of your wrists on the mat. This is turning into just a nice little wrist exercise before we move through practice here. So you're gently rocking forward and back. Try to keep the entire wrist on the mat. Just go forward and back to your capacity. Just a couple more times here. And gently release the fingers back to neutral position, facing forward. Now tent up on your fingertips. So you're coming into a tabletop on your fingertips now. They'll be a little bit farther forward than your shoulders. And you're going to curl both toes under. With both toes curled under, you're going to step the right foot forward and then step the left foot forward to meet that. Have your feet hips width distance, and now you're in your standing forward fold. So let your head still hang heavy here. Feet are hips width distance, nice and parallel. And knees can bend as much as you need to. Maybe you rest your chest on your thighs. Your arms palms can be on the mat, fingertips can touch the mat, or your hands can rest on your thighs if your hamstrings are still a little tight. Wherever you are, let's cross our elbows so that opposite hand grabs opposite elbow. We're coming into ragdoll position here. Gently let the head hang in between both arms. Again, this is another inversion. Our head is below our heart. This is a good time to check in with your shoulders and see if you can draw the shoulders away from the ears. You're drawing them down your back, which is actually up towards the ceiling in this inversion here. And you're actively pressing the feet down into the mat, spinning the inner thighs in and back to create some nice stability and keep your knees from flailing out too much. Just gently take one more breath here. And exhale as you release both clasps of your elbows. Let your head and your arms hang heavy. We're going to come up to standing, but I'd like you to take your time. So let your arms and your head hang heavy, press down through your feet, and gently start to roll up, taking your time from the low back, one vertebrae at a time. Your head is the last thing to arrive. Just taking your time to roll up here. And once you are to standing, just go ahead and roll your shoulders up and back a couple of times. And now you're at the top of your mat with your feet hips width distance, heels behind those center toes. So think back to when we first started practice when we were on the mat, and we made that pose a little more engaged by flexing the feet, pressing down, pressing away from the heels. We started to engage our legs a little bit. Our arms were down to the sides, our palms were facing up, so now our palms are going to face forward. So we're coming into that same pose, but now we're standing upright here. So just take a deep breath here and exhale. Just as we've been doing, try to draw the shoulders away from the ears and the shoulder blades down the back. You can gently draw the shoulders together and broaden through those collarbones. This is our Tadasana mountain pose, the blueprint pose for many other poses, including all of our inversions that we're working on today and this week. So it's just a good time to check in here. Gently spin the inner thighs in and back. It's going to draw the knees slightly closer together and engage the muscles in those legs. In your pelvis, this is very subtle, but see if you can draw the tailbone down. So we're drawing the tailbone down towards the heels as we hug the frontal hip points up to those front bottom ribs. That closes this gap. And if your chest is puffing out slightly, try to breathe into the back ribs to raise those back ribs away from the bottom. Just take an inhale here and exhale. Now in our Tadasana pose, we're going to add our arms up overhead. So let's inhale, raise the arms up overhead. So that the palms face each other. You can bring the palms together if you'd like, or they can stay separated. But again, remember what rotation our shoulders need to be in order for our arms to be overhead here. They need to be an external rotation. So this is an example of if we were doing a handstand upside down, if I could just flip the camera, we would be just like this, and we'd have all the same component parts and key actions that we're doing right now if we were inverted. This is just a good practice pose just to check in, make it active, stay engaged, keep breathing, and just notice how your body feels here. Just take one more inhale and exhale. Just release your hands down to the center of your chest and down to the sides. And we're going to add a little bit of movement now. So make sure you're still at the top of your mat. Feet are hips width distance, heels behind the center toes. Release your arms down to the sides, palms face forward in your Tadasana pose. Here we go. Inhale, arms up overhead, palms touched. Maybe look up to the fingertips. And exhale, we're going to forward fold, bend the knees, hinge at your hip crease, and release down in your forward fold. Knees can bend as much as you need to here. Now place your hands on the top of your shins. Inhale as you lift up halfway. We're coming to halfway lift. We want a nice long spine here, extending through both sides of the waist. And maybe you gently start to straighten your legs. Otherwise, just keep your knees bent here. Idea here is to try to get your torso parallel to the mat. On your exhale, gently release your arms back down into your forward fold. Knees can bend. Press down through your feet. We're coming back up to stand. Raise your arms out and up, overhead, palms touch, look up. And exhale, the hands come down to the center of your chest and down to the sides. Let's try that again. A little quicker. Inhale, arms up, overhead, palms touch, look up. Exhale, forward fold, knees can bend, hinge at the hip crease. Inhale, halfway lift, place the hands at the top of the shins, nice flat back. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. And exhale, release down to the mat. Press the feet down into the mat. Inhale, arms out and up, overhead, palms touch, look up. Exhale, hands down to the center of your chest. One more time. Inhale, arms up, overhead, palms touch. Exhale, bend the knees, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, place the hands on the shins, nice flat back. And exhale, forward fold. Press your feet into the mat. Inhale, arms out and up, overhead, palms touch. Exhale, hands down to the center of your chest. We're going to add on to that a little bit now. So let's inhale the arms up overhead, palms touch, look up. Exhale, forward fold, hinge at the hip crease. Inhale, halfway lift, hands to the shins, nice flat back. And exhale, forward fold, knees can bend. This time, place your fingertips on the ground, bend both knees. Step your right leg back, release your right knee to the ground. Step your left leg back, release the left knee to the ground. So we've been here before in our tabletop, but this time our toes are curled under. So we're going to drop back down to our forearms and clasp our hands in our forearms here. Keep those toes curled under, but again, have those elbows directly underneath the shoulders. Gently pressing the forearms down, have both pinkies pressed down into the mat. Now, with your shoulders lined up over the wrists and your feet curled under, just as we extended both legs, we're coming into a forearm plank here. If this is too much for you, you can gently release your knees back to this position. Either way, if you're coming with me, we're going to curl and straighten that right leg back, and then we're going to curl and straighten that left leg back. So both legs are straightened. So now this is an example, again, of our Tadasana Pose variation, but now we're on the ground with our belly facing down. So draw the tailbone down towards your heels, press the heels away from each other. Again, you can always drop to your knees if you need to, just building a little bit of strength and heat into our upper body. Try to draw the backs of the shoulder blades down and away from the ears. Stay for one more breath in our plank pose here. And exhale, everyone gently release your knees to the ground. Walk the knees back in so that they're underneath your hips. Release the tops of the feet to the ground. Release the clasp of your hands. Press your hips back toward your heels. Come back into your child's pose here. Just catch your breath in your child's pose, releasing your forehead to the mat or a block. Just keep your arms out in front of you, palms facing down. Just stay for an inhale here. And exhale. You can tell even in your child's pose, you can gently press your arms down, slightly externally rotate the arms to create more space in that shoulder as well here. So even though this is more of a restorative pose, you can still think about all those actions that you want to keep in mind. Now we're going to come into our first downward facing dog here. Now I want you to start by pressing your palms into the mat. Lift your hips up off your heels so you're now on the tabletop with your arms a little bit further out in front of you. Going to curl your toes under. Keep that external action of the shoulders there so you're hugging those triceps in, spinning those triceps in and down. And now with the toes curled under, lift your hips up and back. Press your hips back towards your heels. Press your chest back towards your thighs. And straighten the legs into your downward facing dog. You can bend your knees in your down dog. It's our first one here, so you can walk, pedal your feet out, maybe lift one leg, lift one heel and the other. Again, this is a more advanced inversion for sure here. Some of us may be familiar with this pose. This may be new to others. It's kind of the most infamous pose in yoga here, so you've probably at least heard of it. But it's definitely an inversion where, again, just bring some awareness to your shoulders and see how it feels. If you ever need to drop to your knees, you can drop to your knees in your downward facing dog. We're just going to be here for 2 more breaths. Keep pressing down to the base of each finger and each palm. 1 more breath here. And exhale. Now inhale as you gaze forward. Bend the knees. Exhale, walk up to the top of the mat. You can tiptoe up until your feet come up to the top of the mat. Keep them hips width distance, nice and parallel. Let's inhale, halfway lift, hands to the shins, nice flat back. And exhale, forward fold. Coming back up to stand, press down through your feet. Inhale the arms out and up, overhead, palm touch. And exhale, hands down to the center of your chest and down to the sides. Now, let's take a wide-legged stance. There's another inversion that I'd like you to just kind of play around with. So, with your feet nice and wide, you're looking for about 1 leg's distance apart, maybe 3 to 4 feet. But make sure you're still nice and comfortable. And we're not looking for a huge, length here. So make sure you're still nice and comfortable here. Now have your feet nice and parallel, just like in our mountain pose or Tadasana pose with our heels behind our second toes. Bring your hands to your hips. Take an inhale here. And exhale. Actively try and draw the tailbone down. Send those frontal hip creases up to the front bottom ribs. Breathe into the back ribs. Run through those collarbones. Stay for an inhale. And exhale. On your next inhale, look up, maybe add a slight back bend. Press down through your feet, and on your exhale, we're going to hinge forward into a forward fold here with our legs wide. So you keep pressing the feet down into the mat equally as you come down maybe to halfway. You can have a slight bend in the knees if the hamstrings are still tight. And once you come down halfway, release the hands down to the mat. Maybe your hands come down to the mat, maybe you're on your fingertips, or if you have a block or something else to give you a little bit of elevation, you can place those under your hands. But try to have both hands underneath your shoulders here. Now, once you have that, wherever you are, the idea here is, again, to let that head hang heavy. So see if you can gently release the head here. Your gaze should be back between both legs. Maybe you're looking behind. If you want a little bit deeper, you can walk the hands back. But really the idea here is, again, just to get used to having your head below your heart in this other inversion here. And just keeping your hands and arms shoulder width distance. Wherever you are, you're letting your head hang softly, drawing your shoulders away from the ears as we've been doing, as the shoulder blades come down the back. Just stay for 1 more inhale and exhale.
Now, whatever you're pressing down into, make sure your hands are still underneath your shoulders and press up. Gently bend the knees. Place both hands on your waist. Press your feet down into the mat and just slowly lift your torso back up to where we started. Now you can heel toe your feet back into hips width distance. And you can shake them out a little bit. Okay, coming back to the top of the mat. Have your feet nice hips width distance to start. Arms down to the sides, palms face forward. Check in with your Tadasana mountain pose here. Just gently soften the shoulders away from the ears. We've heard that before in our inversions. Take an inhale and exhale. Let's inhale the arms overhead, palms touch, look up. And exhale, forward fold, knees can bend. Inhale, halfway lift, hands to the shins, nice flat back. And exhale, forward fold. This time plant your palms to the mat. Bend your knees as much as you need to in order to make that happen. Keep your left foot forward, but this time extend your right leg back with the right toes curled. Now gently release the right knee to the mat and then uncurl the toes so the top of that right foot comes down to the mat. So you're in a low lunge here. Now place this right arm underneath that right shoulder, either palm on the ground, fingertips, or you can place a block underneath that right arm. And on your inhale, we're going to add a twist. So you're going to lift your left arm out to the side, left fingertips come towards the ceiling. Try to revolve from the navel up, hug both thighs in towards each other. One more breath here in your twist. And exhale, gently release that left arm down to the side. Release the block off to the side. Come up on your fingertips, curl the right toe under, lift that right knee up, send that right foot to meet the left foot, and we're switching. So now send the left leg back, drop the left knee to the mat, uncurl the left toes. And this time, make sure your left arm is placed directly underneath your shoulder. It can be on a block or up on your fingertips. Once you're nice and stable on your next inhale, lift your right arm out and up overhead. Twist and revolve from the navel up. Maybe look up at those right fingertips. We're here for 2 breaths. Just keep pinning those thighs in towards each other. Actively engaging the legs for stability. One more breath. And exhale, gently release that right arm down to the mat. Now release that block off to the side. Tent up on those fingertips, curl that left toe under, and this time extend that right leg back. Keep both toes curled under, and you're going to press yourself back, hips back to the heels, in this modified child's pose. So now you're in a child's pose with your toes curled under. So see if you can send your hips back as close to your heels as you can, and then release your forehead down. If your forehead doesn't come quite to the mat, again, you can place it on a block. Now we're going to come into puppy pose here, which is kind of an in-between of a child's pose and a downward facing dog. This is one of my favorite poses. It can be really relaxing, really strengthening, and stretch happy all at the same time. So keep those toes curled under for now. Lift your hips back up. And now come to where your hips are directly over your knees are directly over your hips, and then you start to walk your hands out as you release your forehead, your chin, or your chest to the mat. So the idea here, this is puppy pose, is to keep, again, your hips directly underneath your knees, and then walk your hands out to your capacity. So you can probably already feel how this is kind of like a downward facing dog. Your palms are pressing down, shoulder width distance. And again, you can either release your forehead, your chin, or maybe if you're pretty flexible, you can release your chest down to the mat. If neither of those work for you, you can always release your forehead to a block, just like in our down dog. The idea here is to really create some length in that spine. This is kind of a preparatory pose for your down dog. So if you're ever having trouble in your down dog and just want to try something where you can really focus on the arms and the shoulders, which is what we're doing today, this is a great pose to keep in mind. Again, arms are still engaged. You're hugging and wrapping the triceps out and down, pressing those biceps out, keeping that external rotation, softening the shoulders away from the ears. Just stay for one more breath. And exhale. Now you're going to walk the hands back in, lift yourself back up. Keep those toes curled under. And again, press your hips back toward your heels. So we're coming into this modified child's pose again. Now, this is the fun part. So we're going to walk the hands out, but keep your hips back down towards your heels. So you're in your child's pose here. Your head's either to the mat or to the block. Arms are out in front of you. Now we'll keep the arms straight. Press the palms into the mat. Press the base of each finger and each palm into the mat. And just gently raise the forearms off the ground. So your arms are nice and straight, raising the forearms off to straighten the arms. Keep externally rotating the arms, drawing the backs of the shoulder blades down the back. And here's the challenge. Try to maintain your arms nice and straight, your torso nice and long. Toes are curled under. And we're coming up to down dog while keeping our arms nice and straight. So there's the challenge. So keep your arms nice and straight. And start to press your heels back as you lift your knees up off the mat. Keep your arms straight. And then start to straighten your legs up and back into your downward facing dog. So try that out. It may not be easy the first time or two. But really, if you can try that by extending the arms, keeping that formation, and then lifting your legs up, that really starts to reinforce that shoulder external rotation. Just stay in your down dog wherever you are. You can always drop to your knees, and you can bend your knees as much as you need to in your downward facing dog. Just staying for one more breath here. And exhale. Everyone drop to your knees. Uncurl those back toes. Let's press ourselves back into our last child's pose here. This one will be a very restorative child's pose. I'd even like you to place your arms back down beside your feet. Have your palms face up with the backs of the hands and the forearms to the mat. Just let your shoulders sink down, let your arms sink down towards the mat. We've been opening our shoulders and externally rotating them all day for practice, so this is the time to just let them hang heavy. And just reconnect with your breath here. And just notice how you felt in those poses. Was that easy? Was that simple? Was it a challenge to kind of come into downward facing dog that way from your child's pose? Then a pose that you're familiar with, that you perhaps maybe learned something different today? Downward facing dog is just a blueprint pose for more advanced inversions, and so if you can master that, or just think of that in a different way, it's really going to help you to be safe and be more ready in more advanced poses. Just take one more breath here. And exhale. Now gently release your arms back in front of you. Lift your forehead and your hips up. We're going to send our legs out in front of us and come back down onto our sitting bones. So with your legs out in front of you, sitting bones are rooted. Again, if you have any trouble sitting up straight here, you can always sit on a block or roll up your mat to give you a little more elevation. Just have both legs straight out in front of you, slight bend in both knees. Take an inhale and exhale. Now let's bend this left knee into your chest. Option 1, keep that left foot on the inside edge of that right knee. Option 2, if you'd like, you can place that left foot to the outer edge of that right knee so it comes across. Either way, we're going to release our left arm behind us. It's just there for stability, so create some nice length in that spine as you inhale. Raise the right arm up, and as you exhale, gently twist to your left. Maybe you release that right arm to the outside edge of that left knee. Inhale as you lengthen, and exhale as you twist. Try to keep both sit bones rooted. And we're here for 2 more breaths. Just a nice long spinal twist here. One more breath inhaling as you lengthen, and exhale as you twist. Now release that, coming back to center. Both arms to the outside edges of your hips. Extend that left leg forward. Slight bend in the left knee. And let's bend the right knee coming to the other side. So try to mirror what you did on the first side. Either keep your right foot to the inside edge of that left knee, or you can place it to the outside edge of that left knee. Release the right arm behind you, right fingertips to the mat. Create some nice length in the spine. Inhale as you raise that left arm up. And exhale as you twist from the navel up. Maybe release the outer edge of that left elbow to the outside edge of that right knee. Keep pressing down through that right big toe wherever you are. We're here for 2 breaths. Just inhale as you lengthen. Exhale, maybe twist a little bit more. Inhale, lengthen. And exhale, twist. Now let's come back to center. I'm just noticing Cody in the corner there. I don't know if you can see him, but sorry, unravel. Place both hands down. Send your hips up towards your heels, bend your knees, and we're gently going to lower onto our backs. He has definitely enjoyed himself, having a nice little nap back there in the water. Maybe he's right on the rocks in the waterfall. Okay, have the knees still bent. Walk the feet back towards your heels. Arms down to the sides. And now heel toe your feet to the width of the mat. So you're separating your feet out to the width of the mat, and then let your knees fall into touch. So your knees are touching, your feet are separate. They're way wider than hips width distance. They're out to the width of the mat if you can. Just let your arms fall down to the sides, palms face up. Just take a breath here to notice. Keep your arms wide. We're gently going to rock our knees from side to side. So let both knees fall off to one side. Bring them back up through center and off to the other side. Just be very gentle here, taking time. Do that one more time each side. And then bring your knees back into center. Heel toe your feet back into hips width distance. Separate your knees hips width distance so your knees are directly over your heels now again. Release your arms down to the side, then hug your knees into your chest. Wrap your hands either around your thighs or your shins. Give one nice last little squeeze here, squeezing those knees in toward your chest. Maybe lift your shoulders and your head off the ground for one last squeeze here. And exhale as you extend your legs forward. Release your the back of your head to the mat. Extend both arms overhead. So now you're extending from your toes to your fingertips, pointing your toes away from your body, extending the fingers away from your body. One last stretch here. And exhale as you gently release. Arms come back down to the sides, palms face up. Let the knees and the feet fall off to the side. We're coming into our Shavasana Pose, our last pose of the practice here. So we were here at the beginning of practice, and just notice as your gaze softens or your eyes closes, what feels differently now? Are your shoulders a little softer? Can you feel your low back a little bit closer to the mat? Maybe you feel a little bit differently from when you started. Maybe your mind is a little more settled as well. Just take some time to fall deeply into your pose here.
Just begin to bring some awareness back into your body. Maybe you wiggle your fingers and your toes. Rotate your wrists and your ankles. You can switch directions in those rotations. And come back to stillness for one last breath here. Now gently bend your knees as you roll over to one side of your body. Taking your time to roll over, having the top arm meet the bottom and the top knee rest on the bottom knee. Just stay for one more breath here on your side. Maybe your gaze stays softened or your eyes close as you use your top arm to press yourself up to a comfortable cross-legged seated position to complete our practice today. Once you're in your cross-legged seated position, palms can come to the top of the knees, palms face up, or bring the palms into the center of your chest. Thank you for joining me in practice today. The light and love in me acknowledges and honors the light and love in each one of you. Thank you. Peace. Thank you all so much for joining me in practice this evening. I had a great time walking through everything, and I learned now that my cats can float on water, so that's a fun discovery. I really hope you enjoyed class. It's really a fundamental practice to really get ready for more advanced inversions, but also just reconnect with your breath and just learn that more advanced postures and inversions for the most part require patience more than anything. And so by really deeply connecting with yourself through these postures, you'll know when you're ready to move on or when you think you need to reinforce something and dial it back. It may depend on the day or the week or just that time. So I really want to thank you all for joining me in practice. If you have any questions, you can always leave them in the chat. You can write a comment on the video, or my um, info is in the video description for contacting me directly. If you'd like to leave a donation, that donation link is always in the video description as well. Otherwise, thank you all very much. I hope you feel great. Take however you feel right now. Send it out into the rest of the world and take it into the rest of the week with you. Next practice will be Wednesday at 7 p.m. Otherwise, have a wonderful week. Thank you all. Peace.